everyone! It's been a while since I've talked to you directly like this, and I'm a bit out of practice, so I've been really procrastinating on this video. But let's do it now. So I wanted to talk to you about this project that I recently have been working on and I'm mostly done with now. I thought it would be interesting to record some of the process and try to reflect a bit more on how I work on my projects and what I've learned from it. I thought it might be interesting for me later on to go back and see what I did, was it the best thing, how I could have done things differently. And I thought I'd maybe share it with you because maybe some of you will find it interesting. So some time ago I had this idea to illustrate the zodiac signs as different characters, because I know that each sign is supposed to have certain characteristics. So I thought I'd just make some kind of character out of it and try to use this personality that the sign is supposed to have to design a character, just sort of as fun experiment for myself. But then I was contacted by a client who actually wanted me to illustrate the zodiac signs as characters, but they also had to be babies or small children because the project was going to be for products for children or babies. So I thought I combined the two and just make all of it, both the babies and the more grown-up characters. Or maybe to be more precise, I think I wanted to use the project that I originally had in mind, focus on that a little bit more, because I really didn't want to draw babies. I never drew babies or children in my life, and it was way out of my comfort zone. It was really not something I wanted to do, but I had to do it. So anyway, I decided to go with both of these at the same time, see what happened. So the more important project was the one with the babies, because that was the more commercial one. And the main challenge with that was, well, drawing babies. With the more grown-up characters, the challenge was to try and incorporate these characteristics that each sign supposedly has, while still making the character recognizable as this sign. Because I think that when people look at illustrations of zodiac characters, they usually go and look for their own sign, and it's nice if you can make it instantly recognizable. During my research, I've looked at a lot of illustrations of zodiac signs, and the ones that include people often were really hard to recognize as the sign. I think that if you go very literal, it's not that difficult to make it, but I mean, if you wanna represent a ram as a person and a goat as a person, they're very close. Like those signs that are animals with horns, the ram, the bull, and the goat, I mean, they're pretty much identical. It's really hard to distinguish, and I also didn't want to show them in the exact same way. Like, for example, if I used the girl's hair to represent some sort of horns, I didn't want to do that with all the girls, so I wanted to have some kind of different way of presenting. And the other challenge was with both the babies and the grown-ups. I wanted to have some diversity in the characters. I wanted them to be different races. I wasn't very gender diverse. They're pretty much all girls because it's more fun that way. Well, with the babies I think it's a bit hard to say. It can go both ways with most of them, so you know. But the thing about diversity is that while some people are really into the idea, some other people are really not into it, and when you make a commercial project you want to appeal to as many people as possible, and while you might want to preserve your own values, you still have to make the project sellable. So I wanted to design characters that have some diversity to them, but also that are ambiguous enough that basically all kinds of people can recognize themselves into those characters. And that was difficult. I don't think there is a way to entirely succeed in that, because unless you draw stick figures, you have to give those characters some traits that people will just recognize as a certain type of person. Oh my god, the ambiguity. I think what me from the past is trying to say is that, wow, I wanted to have diverse characters, I didn't know exactly how that would be accepted. I had been previously criticized by a client for having too few blonde people on a brochure for international education, so I wanted to design characters that would make it easy for anyone to see themselves in them, so they're somewhat ambiguous. On the other hand, if I was criticized for the way they looked, I could easily adjust them to look differently, and that was a bit of a challenge. But yeah, back to the video. So let's talk about some lessons and things that I learned from this project, or more like things that I was reminded of, because I wouldn't say that there was something groundbreakingly new that I learned, but there were certainly things that I rediscover over and over again and I often tend to forget about. So making this video, I hope I wouldn't have to rediscover it again, that I would just remember it. The number one lesson that everyone keeps telling everyone else and then probably ignoring it is to step out of your comfort zone. And this project was really big on this one. As I said before, I really didn't want to draw babies. I didn't find it fun, I didn't find it interesting. I just really didn't wanna. But once I forced myself to do it, I discovered that actually I had tons of fun and I really enjoyed it. And actually I enjoyed drawing and designing the baby characters way more than I did the grown-ups. I found that these baby characters give you some really interesting different ways of expressing yourself and your ideas than the grown-ups just don't have. Also, you can get away with much more weird things because they're babies, so they can do all kinds of interesting things. Like, one of my favorite characters was the one for Aries. Hope I'm saying that right. You know, the sign that is a ram. So for this character, I drew a baby that is playing with this plush ram toy and it's sort of nibbling on its horns or something, and I thought that was really fun. And it's something that I would never do with a grown-up character. You can make a lot of different and interesting expressions that normally grown people don't have, like a lot of, you know, this awe and curiosity in the eyes that disappears with age and wisdom. So yeah, I was really glad that I was pushed into drawing those babies. The next lesson was that you should draw by hand every day. When I started on this project, I had a really long gap of not drawing by hand. I was drawing a lot, but it was all digital and it was mostly either tracing old sketches or drawing without drawing. If you followed my Adobe Illustrator illustration tutorials, then you maybe will know what I mean, because there is a way to make a drawing without actually drawing that much. Like, you can use different basic shapes which you manipulate in a way that makes it look like a tree or a house or something else. And while that's sometimes quicker and it suits some projects better than the actually hand-drawn stuff, it takes you out of actually drawing by hand. And drawing is it's not like riding a bicycle. Even though riding a bicycle is not like riding a bicycle. I had to relearn to ride a bicycle after 10 years of not being on a bicycle at all, and well, it wasn't like getting on it for a first time, but it wasn't like the 10 years didn't happen. So yeah, it's like that with drawing. It's not like you learn to draw and now you can draw and you can draw forever and it's always going to be as good. No, it's something that if you don't keep and if you don't practice and if you don't go over it over and over again, it just disappears and get worse. Or I guess if you don't do it for long enough, maybe you forget altogether how to do it. I haven't really went years without drawing, but I imagine that you can't really pick up where you left off. Of course you can put in the work and you can recover your skills or even get better, but you will feel that you haven't been doing it consistently and that you're rusty. And that was kind of a unpleasant experience. And even as I'm saying that, I realized that I still don't draw every day. Thinking about last year, I filled so many sketchbooks, and this year I haven't been drawing by hand as much as I did last year, for example, which was probably the year where I I drew by hand the most and probably progressed the most. If your job is to draw, probably should draw. To fight this, I had to use some time before starting each day to just practice and warm up and do some live sketches. Well, I actually used some online tools that show you pictures or videos. There's a great YouTube channel where there are videos of nude models that you can draw and practice by. I don't remember the name right now, but I can put this in the description. You can use those resources to warm up before you start and keep your skills sharp each day. And definitely I could see the difference between the first sketch I made in a day and the later sketches. Like when I first started with the babies, for example, the first few sketches were horrifying. They were so bad, so ugly. And then progressively they got better. And a lot of times people, and I do that all the time, you have this feeling that I'm gonna sit down now and make this sketch and cover it and call it a day, but it's not how it works. You can't just go with your first idea. That's usually the worst idea you're gonna have and the worst executed idea. Which brings me to the next lesson: just don't fall in love with your first idea. And it's easy to do because even though I like drawing, sometimes you're lazy, sometimes you procrastinate, sometimes you want to go with the first thing that comes up because I guess you have this subtle fear that it's not going to get any better, or you're even a bit surprised with how well it turned out the first time. But I promise you that the fifth time it's probably going to be a lot better. Or maybe the 100th time, you never know how many times you would need. Another thing I had to sort of relearn was that sometimes, well, always, when you work on a project, it's very good to have limitations. They give you a box to work in, and that just makes you think more creatively. But sometimes you can overdo it and put way too many limitations on yourself, and some of them are probably not helpful at all. They're not improving the work at all. Like, for example, when I was designing the grown-up characters, I wanted to have a lot of different looking people. I decided that I'll have as many characters with short hair or as many characters with, I don't know, certain sort of clothes or something, and in some cases it was just not helpful. Like, it turned out that some character works better with long hair, even though I originally decided that they should have short hair, and it's really not something that is worth trying too hard to fit in. So some limitations are good, and do your best to stay within those frames, but with some, when you realize that they're not giving you anything of value, just scrap them. Another thing that I often run into and have to relearn over and over again is that it's important to prioritize a clarity of concept over what's cool. For example, with these grown-up characters, I really wanted each character to represent the character or the personality that this sign was supposed to have. Like, for example, let's say if the character is supposed to be nerdy and shy and intelligent or whatever, let's say I want to draw them with glasses and a book, for example. But then comes the question, how do I show that this is this sign if the characteristics of the sign, like the recognizable features, like, I don't know, like you have Sagittarius, which needs to have bow and arrow, for example. Where do I incorporate that? I wanted the characters to feel like everyday regular people on one hand, so they had to sort of do normal things, but on the other hand, their main function is to be this, to represent this zodiac sign. So in one way or the other, the Sagittarius, for example, has to have bow and arrow, and that's the most important. And sometimes it might feel more cool to make them into this person that you envision, but someone else looking at your work can't look at it and say, oh yeah, that's a Sagittarius. Then you failed. No matter how cool your idea is, if you're the only one who can see the coolness and who can understand what you're saying, then it's not cool. Or it's not commercial anyway. I guess if you're doing art for art's sake, then you can do whatever you want and completely express your conceptual ideas. But if you're hoping for your project to have some commercial appeal, which I won't have, then you have to consider other people as well. And this is hard, and it's not always fun, and I'm still not sure how well kept that. Some of the characters I haven't exactly finished yet, like they haven't laid color and everything, and I have yet to do a bit of a test whether people can recognize them or not. So I have still a lot to learn on that, but important to recognize and have in mind. Something else that I learned, which is not really a lesson on how to work, but more about lesson about myself, is that, and I'm feeling a bit uncool admitting that, because I kind of wanted it to be the other way around, but I realized that I don't enjoy making up concepts as much. I mostly just enjoy the finishing process, the choosing colors, coloring, and finishing and polishing a concept, and maybe printing it and making it into a physical product that I can hold. Like this second or later stage was much more fun for me. I feel like the more cool job or cool part is coming up with the concept and designing the character, but I felt like I really procrastinated on that part a lot, and I did so because I wasn't enjoying it as much. And the thing is, when I have to draw in my sketchbook and just make something for myself, I really love that. I love sketching, I love trying different things, I love the messing around, but when it's for a serious project for a client, I feel like this part really drains me, and I don't know why, and it makes me feel really uncreative that I'm sort of slightly dreading the most creative part of the job. Yeah, or maybe I'm just lazy, I don't know. Or it might just be the feeling of pressure that you have to make something that works, because as I said, I really don't mind doing this when I'm doing it for myself. It's really fun, but when it's for a more serious project, then I guess it just gets a bit scary. And then there are also some things that I feel are important to remember when you work, which again tend to forget. Take breaks, short and fairly often. You need to get up and move around and move away from your desk. You can't just sit there all day, get frustrated over your concepts, which happens a lot. When you feel stuck, it's great to go out and go for a walk and clear your head. This might not work for everyone. I think everyone probably have their own way to reset and get the creativity going again. So whatever that is for you, you have to discover it. But for me, it's taking walks outside and either forgetting completely about what I'm doing or still thinking about it, but doing it while moving around and not just sitting and staring at a blank page. Always warm up, and by that I mean warm up your hand. Start with some quick dumb sketches that don't have to come to anything. I feel like this is really difficult, especially when you want to be quick and want to be very efficient, but sometimes the only way to be efficient is to take some time to do some things that don't feel productive at all. Try multiple ideas. Do it quickly, don't polish them. Try maybe different poses, different body postures. It doesn't have to be pretty, nobody has to ever see it. Just try different angles, try maybe different clothes, hairstyles, whatever. Just don't directly jump into it. I feel like I said that a lot in this video, but tend to ignore it, so I don't know about you, but I need to hear it multiple times. I'm going to have so much fun editing this video and listening to myself. Hello! Looking at my notes here, lastly, or the last one I remembered to put down, is if you are very attached to an idea, but everyone else tells you it's a bad idea, what should you do? I feel like for me the answer is, if you really believe in your idea and if it seems really great, but everyone keeps telling you that no, this is not going to work, this is a bad idea, I think you should still go on and do your idea. Just try it out and see. You might lose some time, but sometimes you really need to see it. And then what often happens with me is that you see that your idea is horrible and people were totally right, but you couldn't see it because you were too in love with it. And sometimes, in rare cases, you'll actually see that it is a good idea, and you'll probably be able to persuade others that, yeah, you were right, and that was really a good way to go. But I feel like if I just scrap an idea without trying it and do what others tell me to do, I will never completely commit to the new thing I'm doing, because in my head this original idea will always be so amazing and I'll feel so bad for not pursuing it. If you have the time, go on and do it. No one can prove you wrong better than yourself. Yeah, I have something to add. Always remember to save your files if you work digitally. Like, save every 5 minutes. Go hit the save right now. I think that's all I wanted to share about it right now. I hope this was interesting for you. Alright, past me, let me stop you right there because you're starting to ramble. I just want to say subscribe if you want to see more of me. Let me know if you like this type of project log, I think I'm gonna call it. Leave your comment, whatever it is. Give it a like if you liked it. And make sure to follow me on Instagram so you can see this project completed. All the finished illustrations are going to be there. Actually, most of them already are. So just do it. And last but not least, all these illustrations are going to be added to my Redbubble store on all kinds of products. You'll find the link in the descriptions. There may or may not be up already, but they will be soon. And that's it. I really hope to see you next time, and until then, have fun.